And back in the day, they were able to farm at such a high efficient rate, and they didn't have any of the technology that we have today. They understood the land, they understood nature, and one of the big things that we need to get back to, again, I think as tech people, is how do we have these conversations at these conferences to meet those farmers where they're at? Because I think one of the big things that we do, especially on the tech side of things, is that we make things so complex to where the person as the end user doesn't have a single clue on what to do. So for us is how do we be able to make technology so simple on the front end as what CropWorster does, to be able to just ask a simple question and get exactly what you need, because that is what a farmer wants. They're business people, but at the same time too, they are people. We like simplistic things. We like to make things easy over time. And at the same time too, I said the quote earlier today is we have a huge AI boom currently. And NVIDIA is probably one of the most important chips on the planet. But if I can get a show of hands, how many people can eat an NVIDIA chip? Probably nobody in here. If you do, you might have a little bit of bowel issues after that. But it's understanding that we have technology moving at such a pace, but we need to understand that we are organic people. We are organic beings, and we need to be able to take care of the organic earth just as the same way that we're doing in the digital space. So, as what was discussed before, land right now and the dirt is data. That's probably one of the biggest things that we need to understand, is that we need to cultivate that same data and be able to make it to where that farmer, that grower, producer can be able to use that data to be able to forecast different things in the future. Tech right now, especially in the rural communities and things like that, a lot of people are scared to use it. A lot of people don't want to use it. Now we're having the conversation of environmental issues with using AI. We're having a conversation earlier today about not wanting to use AI because of the water usage. And that is a very big concern, which again, probably a hackathon concept, is how do we start creating water efficient ways of using this AI and technology? Because as much as this stuff is moving very fast, we're not also looking at the consequences that it can be able to administer to this industry. And for us, at the end of the day, food sovereignty is probably one of the biggest things. One of the things that I talk about is the ability to grow your own food. That is true power. Because if you can be able to be self-sustainable, I mean, at the end of the day, going to the grocery store is great, but being able to go into your backyard and be able to pick from that, probably one of the most life-changing things that you can be able to do. Started this whole agriculture journey by growing hydroponics right next to my PlayStation 5. That was how I got started as a longtime gamer. I wanted to get my hands, well, in this case, it wasn't in the dirt because I was using hydroponics, but I wanted to, get hands-on. And so for us, it's getting kids, the next generation, how can they start using it and be able to see the opportunity? Because, working with kids, and I got my partner Charles here, who's doing education. When you grow your own food, and especially for kids, it's a whole different ball game. Because at the end of the day, you feel it's ownership. At the end of the day, you need to understand that when you go to the grocery store and you purchase that product, you don't know where it came from. You don't know what's on it. You don't know how long it's been there. And then when you start talking about nutrient deficiency, which is a huge thing plaguing the United States, is due to the fact that we're so far removed from when that thing is harvested. So being able to understand that if you control your food, you can control your future is a very important thing. So up here, I have the way that agriculture has kind of changed throughout time. So you have the legacy practices, the modern technology, and the future of technology. So legacy practices, we're here, like I said, we're at Tuskegee yesterday. The great George Washington Carver was very innovative in the matter of changing how agriculture was specifically done. And then now you have field scouting, co-op farming, and knowledge sharing. All these things were pretty analog, not too much technology that was used in those spaces. So now when we started moving into the modern times, now we have things like AI and machine learning. We have drone imaging, as what was described with the many different innovations that was in the first one. Blockchain and cryptocurrency, I see that being able to change how funding specifically is done, because the USDA just cut off a lot of funding specifically to the food and agriculture space. I believe $1 billion was cut just from local food and school programs. For me, I see the space of cryptocurrency, decentralized funding as an opportunity for farmers to get better access to those funds, because as much as technology is moving, we need to be able to create access to capital, specifically for those farmers, because at the end of the day, to be able to get those seeds, to be able to take care of a bad harvest, they need access to capital that's 24/7, 365, doesn't have bank holidays, and is more efficient. And then now when you have AI learning hubs and AI agents, that's something that, again, I think with what Crop Wizard is doing is that each farmer in each industry is more than likely going to have their own AI agent, and they're going to have an AI assistant. And then those type of things is where instead of me going, when I go out into the farm, I'd be able to take a snapshot of the picture and be able to send it straight to a Crop Wizard or an AI agent, get that advice at $20 a month. To compare to, and sometimes too, we'll talk about this with the jobs and things like that, which is a big scaring problem for a lot of people, but it creates a different level of efficiency for that farmer to where now they would have had to have a whole person there that more than likely, if they get sick, now you have no access to them. If they're on vacation, you have no access to them. If they're late, you have no access to them. So how can you be able to create that knowledge access at that point? And then now that when you have the future of agriculture as well, you go into things like predictive regeneration. How can you be able to predict what that plant is going to do, what that crop is going to do, and be able to forecast it? Doing things like precision irrigation so that way you can use water more efficiently. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest scarce resources is going to become water. And we're not having that conversation because things like water rights are being bought up by billionaires. I don't know if you know anything about water rights, but it's a crazy concept to think that people are literally buying access to water. And then again, I think that the gamification of agriculture and digital twins, how can we be able to reach the next generation? 3 billion people on the planet play video games. That's 1 out of 3 people. So at the end of the day, how do I take a platform like Fortnite and teach the next generation how to be able to be a better farmer? Because it's reaching them where they're at. I'm a longtime gamer. My mom, she'd probably kill me if I say this all the time, but she told me all the time, hey, video games, you're not going to make money in those video games, all this other stuff. And now I send her clippings of the kids winning these esports tournaments in $1 million. And I'm like, you're still working. If you would have just believed in me, we could have done this thing. But again, it's exactly, we could have been living nice and lavish, probably could have had like a 4,000 acre farm, whoever knows. But again, it's being able to meet them where they're at because, these kids, we spend a lot of time on video games, but then now we have things like Farm Simulator, which is a video game, to where now we can be able to say, hey, how can I teach you to be able to build this crop, get enough money to be able to get drones on your platform? And then now you're learning through the game, to which then now you're learning a practical way. Now, when you go to a farm or you get interested in agriculture, you say, you know what? I already learned this in the video game. What about these different ideas? So that's just, again, I won't go too deep into that. I'd love to talk to anybody about the gamified side of things because I definitely see that we have to change how education is done. We have to change how accessibility to a 4,000 acre farm is done because now when you have digital twins, the metaverse is usually talked about as a very vague thing. But what if we could create a digital twin of a farm and be able to allow people to purchase plots of that digitally, and that is able to fund that farm? Now you're completely changing how people are looking at the metaverse. So this is just a thought on that side of things. So real projects with real impact. So for me, I see that we're using technology in many different innovative ways. We have robotics, IoT sensors, and soil health is a huge thing. Urban gardens using solar and Bitcoin mining. I won't go into that rabbit hole today. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow in my session about Bitcoin. But now using the ability to monetize energy over time. Then now you have co-ops that can be able to use tracking and then share that knowledge via blockchain and open source technology to where now you can be able to say, hey, I had this thing happen and now this group of people can share that knowledge. And then now with computer vision, yesterday, Dr. Tilla took me to the hackathon, and one of the winners was using computer vision to analyze for animals and being able to track things like disease before it gets across your whole farm. Because now if you can take a cow that may have a disease and then isolate it, that keeps your other cows healthy. And many people don't understand that predictive ability to do that is game changing. Because now, for instance, a farmer that would have been guessing or hoping or maybe comes and sees the cow laying there foaming at the mouth, it's too late at that point because now it's probably spread. So that's another big thing. And then again, talking about AI agents for sales and admin assistance as what we're doing on Produce Matrix to integrate those ways that so that way those farmers can be able to get access to those vendors and those customers as well. So next gen benefits. So being able to predict what's going on your farm is very important. Things like soil health and optimal planting times is huge, because now when you can be able to take your data, again, I keep on coming back to Crop Wizard and what you guys are doing is some great stuff, because we need to build data specific or industry specific large language models, because the average farmer doesn't need to go to ChatGPT, type in what he needs from his farm, and then get a generic answer that's based on who knows what research. That is what we need to do in the matter of innovating and collaborating from an academic side, but then now from the whether it's private equity and all the billionaire money that we have, every single one of them eats food. We need to understand that this is probably one of our biggest investment opportunities to be able to, one, change the agriculture space, but then two, how do we make it more efficient for everybody in the matter of accessibility. So again, drones and IoT sensors is a huge thing. And then precision agriculture is a big side of things, being able to save money. When you're able to use less water, when you're able to cut down on pesticides, those are things that due to inflation have continually increased. But now how can a farmer be able to use things like cover cropping to be able to reduce that, but then now also understanding what different type of crops they can grow in those off seasons as well. So right now, probably one of the biggest things that's discussed with AI is the fact that people are losing jobs. I think yesterday, again, in the session was agriculture probably has more jobs than anybody can think about. And everybody is like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to work. But these are all technology opportunities in the agriculture space. You have drone operators, you have AI data analysts, you have climate smart consultants. So you can come into a farm and be able to be that person to be able to educate them on innovative ideas on the way they can help their farm. Regenerative engineers, literally, how can you help them with their robotics and be able to come onto their farm and be able to fix things or be able to give them advice on what they can do. And then now you have AI farm technicians as well too. So again, I think that one of the things, and this it says it, is that being a farmer is part scientist, it's part engineer, and it's a part innovator. And that's why I think that agriculture is probably one of the biggest opportunities for those that are interested to really get creative, but then have a huge impact and possibly make a lot of money too. Because if you do it right, everybody eats. So again, you'll be able to have some good customers. So how can you get started? How many people, I'll just get a raise of hands. How many people in here are using AI in some semblance? I'm loving to see that. That's great. Because I think that the biggest thing that you can do is just get curious. Sit down with this technology. Don't listen to the headlines. Just use it. At the end of the day, just use it. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is that it's going to give you a bad answer. And then now coming back to it also, this is another thing, is talking about expertise. One of the examples that I like to give is the example of the lawyer that was disbarred. Did anybody hear about the story of the lawyer that was disbarred due to using AI in his legal cases? So for those that don't know, so basically what happened is this lawyer most likely passed on his legal case to his paralegal. They threw it into AI. He took it, went to the judge. Judge looks at it, bunch of fake cases. Ends up getting disbarred after 30 years. That's just a simple mistake, because most likely he didn't use it, but then also too, he did not fact check it. That's one of the big things that we need to understand about AI. I believe you discussed it yesterday, is that it's just a tool. If you don't have the expertise or the knowledge behind it, it's more or less useless. And you're basically risking possibly your job or your livelihood on the fact that something is guessing, especially from a general sense. So I think that for a lot of people, so whether you're a subject matter expert, a teacher, professor, business owner, just get curious and start using this and start figuring out how this can be used in your industry or benefit you. Again, collaborating. You guys are all here, being able to attend things like conferences. I think that, just having this session alone at an agricultural conference is being able to move the needle specifically, because especially in our community, in the Black community, we tend to move a little bit slower when it comes to innovation. And that's due to the fact that a lot of times we have been getting the short end of the stick when it comes to those things. And that is the reason why, for me, it's being able to have that representation to talk about that. Everything's scary, but at the same time, too, in this day and age where over the last 5 years, the dollar has lost 50% of its value due to inflation. What is risk? What is risk? At the end of the day, when you're a farmer, understanding that, hey, I need to create better ways to make my farm more efficient. Because for a lot of people, what's happening now is technology is moving faster than most people can ask questions. And I think that it's in a group. It takes, as I say, it takes a village for people to understand. And it takes a group of people to say, hey, you know what? I'm coming from different walks of life. I have this perspective. What is your take on this? So I think that it's a collaborative effort, especially in the agriculture space, on how we can do that. And again, from the investment side of things, support your local farmer. Support that regenerative side of things. As what you mentioned, $30 gallon sounds crazy, but at the end of the day, if you know where it's coming from, it ends up becoming worth it. And you sip it like a cognac. You know what I mean? Because because you appreciate it. But again, it's like when you realize you don't need to consume it the way that you would normally consume juice that's $3. Why? Because it's a different value understanding to it. Why? Because I know that the person that grew this, I know the process, I can see it. Then coming back to social media, hey, that person's on TikTok. I can see them not using pesticides compared to Ocean Spray. You don't know where the cranberries came from or if there's even cranberries in it. So that's one of the big things, is just understanding that supporting local. And that's why, again, coming back to Produce Matrix on our platform, why we built it out is because what I had happen to me was we had a bad ice storm in 2023. We lost all power for us, and we're not technically even in a food desert. And that's the crazy part. But the grocery store was closed, didn't have any fresh food, couldn't open up the refrigerator. And that's when it clicked for me that basically everybody in the country is more or less one natural disaster or one emergency away from being cut off from access to food. I don't care whether you stay in the suburbs, you stay rurally, you are one situation from, because most people don't grow their own food. Most people don't even know somebody that grows their own food. So now we've become so far removed from our food supply that we need to understand that whether it's using technology or just, like I said, just knowing your local farmer, that is very important to be able to support your livelihood. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. This is my QR code for Dash in Between for our platform, Produce Matrix as well. Again, like